MVC and Spring Boot. So, what do you see the difference, the Spring Boot and Spring MVC? What do you see the difference?
Like embedded auto configuration is there in Spring Boot. So like Spring provides dependency injection and inversion of control, right? So we don't need to create an object for any class. So if that class is a Spring Bean, so Spring container will take care about the creating an object, and wherever this class is required, it can be injected into that class whenever we write either auto wire annotation. And Spring Boot provides like parent forms. So we don't need to write much dependencies into our form.xml, and it will remove some version conflicts also. The compatible version they have provided into the parent form. And if you want to create a web application, right, so you don't need to write much dependencies like servlet dependency, JSP dependency, and dispatch servlet related Spring Core and database related hibernate. Those things you don't need to write. So just if you are adding the Spring Web, right, so it will automatically take care of the user is trying to create a web application. So it will download all the required dependencies from the Maven repository. So we don't need to deploy onto external server like Tomcat or JBoss, anything. So just we can it will be internally downloaded the Tomcat server as a jar, and it can run as a simple Java main method. Like it will start from the main method. It is very simple to execute, to test, and to deploy. And so microservices is like individually deployable, and it can handle single operations, right? So those are communicated through web, in the JSON format, and JSON or XML format. But it's we can integrate multiple APIs into one single domain or single technology. We should not tightly couple with the one technology. And we can call it asynchronous.
Okay. Consider that your application is a Spring MVC. Consider, and you working as a Tomcat server.
Okay.
So the WAF ID that you are deploying that Tomcat server. When the Tomcat server is up, how the application, Tomcat server will recognize that this application is a Spring MVC.
I'm not sure about.
You're not sure, or you're not clear of question?
Okay. So you need to say like the embedded Tomcat server. How does it know whether this application is a Spring Boot application or other Spring MVC?
No, Spring MVC. Because the applications you implement in Spring MVC, the servers after how the application, we have so many classes, how the application recognizes the Spring MVC application.
So by reading the application context initializer class. So by reading the application context or bean context class, I think. I'm not sure.
No, that is the bean or get purpose is a class. It is just reading for a class. Okay. You said implement microservice. Can you tell us, elaborate how you implement a microservice?
Can you repeat the question again?
No, you in the resume that you mentioned that microservice.
Yes.
Can you elaborate that how you implemented microservice?
So, like microservices is an architecture. microservices is an architecture like for each and every project. Like we need to create a separate project, and in that we can specify the single endpoint or some particular specific related, like if you want to update, right? So update employee details, so employee update service we can write, and inside that, so update related only one or two endpoints we need to write, and using like at the REST controller annotations they have provided, and we have some annotations like at the get mapping, post mapping, right? So so we have some configuration, communication between microservices and microservices. We have some REST template is there, and Pin client and REST Assure, those kind of third party APIs also provided. So in monolithic application we are writing all the URLs into one single application, but here based on our functionality we are segregating the endpoints into different modules or different projects, and those two projects will communicate each other through web, and here in monolithic application one port is maintained and only one server is maintained, right? So whereas here in microservice environment, for each and every application there must be another Tomcat or any server, and it should have a different port number also. And so to avoid this dynamic API and port number changes, right? So Eureka server is coming to picture. So all the microservices will register with the Eureka. Whenever you want to call with to A service to B service, we need to get it the IP address and port number from the Eureka only. Whether the service is up and running by using actuators we can find out, and the IP address and port number we will get it by application name. So whenever we call by application name, it will provide the dynamic IP address and port number. So if you have multiple instances, whichever the application is free, that port number or that IP address will be returned back to the user.
Suppose here's one project, like you written in a monolith, one project. Tell me that one project you want to change to microservice.
Okay.
It's not a two project.
Only
one project, like for example, like one project is a health care. If single like one project you make it one WAP file and it is in the monolith. That you need to change to the microservice. How you do that?
Like first of all we need to we need to create a project in Spring Initializer. So we need to add the dependencies in the form.xml like Spring Web, and if you want to connect to MySQL, so that dependency we need to add, that will be downloaded as a application. So in the SRC folder, configuration class will be a Spring configuration class is inbuilt added, and in that main method is available. So inside that Spring application dot run method is there. So from there our application being executed started, and so we need to write a controller. That controller class must be annotated with the REST controller, and inside that controller class, so we need to write a method. That method must be annotated with get mapping or post mapping. Get mapping. Consider get mapping, and we need to provide /users. Okay, and it should go to the database, right? So we need to have a service class dependency. So we need to create a service class interface, and we need to write an implementation class. That class must be annotated with service annotation. So and inside our REST controller class we need to write private and and our service class interface name, and on top of that variable we need to write @auto-while annotation, and we need to call the service class method, and inside the service class method we need to call repository, either JPA repository or Hibernate related configuration we need to write. The configuration information we need to write into the application.properties or bootstrap.properties file. So that is depends on your configuration. Like if you are using config server, you can go with the bootstrap.properties file, or you can, if you are writing only one application, it doesn't depend on any configuration server or any Eureka, right? You can directly write the default application.properties file. You need to provide the spring.hibernate or some data source name, driver class name, URL, username, password. That information you need to write. And inside the JPA repository, so you need to write an interface that employee repository extends JPA repository. That is an interface, so it must be extends JPA repository. And on top of this class, we need to add a repository annotation. So if you want to load all the users, right? So we have one method implicitly provided by JPA, that is find all method. So inside the find all method, it will return all the we need to create an entity class, that is employee, and we need to write entity and primary key, foreign key columns we need to write, and we need to write one to many, many to one, all the relations we need to make it. So it will fetch all the employees from the employee table and return back to the service class. From the service to controller, from controller we need to send as a response body. So the REST controller is a combination of controller and response body. So by default it will send any object as a JSON format. If you are sending a employee object, that employee will be converted as a JSON format, and you can test it from the Postman itself, from Postman. Like by default port number is 8080, right? So you can directly run this application, right click, run as a Spring Boot application. That you can run it, or you can build it as a jar, and you can run that java-jar port number. You can give either 8080 or 8081. You can mention the port number, and you can give the application name also. So it will run on the
JSON file. What JSON file will be there? It will be .test or .json. What is this JSON file?
Can you repeat that question?
No, the JSON file, it will be .test or .json.
Second one I heard, but first one
am I audible?
Your voice is breaking.
Okay. So in JSON file, it is a .test or .json.
.json, right? So like
it is a.test or a.json. Sorry?
JSON file.
Okay. So how you comment a single line in JSON?
Can you repeat that question?
No, how you comment single line in JSON format? Okay, I repeat your question. How do you comment in a single line in JSON format?
/star. How do we comment on Java? I think the same way we need to comment.
What are the main feature of Spring Boot?
Like it provides auto configuration and parent forms, embedded Tomcat server, and pom.xml package one either jar or var we need to mention, right? The dependencies only. Build in the build.
Okay. And what do you see the difference between the YAML file and the property file?
So YAML file based on the indentation, so it will work like so if you are adding spaces, right? So it will take as a like in properties file we need to mention like string dot framework dot web dot application, right? So whereas in YAML file string we need to give the spaces in the next line string colon and in the YAML file generally in YAML file generally we need to mention the like database related configuration related information, database configuration related information, and
database configuration related you can also mention the property also.
Yes, we can.
I just want to know that difference, like what's the advantage if you want to work in a YAML or property file? What is the advantage for that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. In Hibernate, suppose there are 5 developers in Hibernate. So they're using the same class and the same method. Basically, in that there is a parent table, there is a child table. For developers, you have to load the parent table as well as child table. They have to load both.
Okay.
So some information in parent table, some information in child table, they want to display in UI.
Okay.
And the last developer, 5 developer, they have to load only the parent table, not a child table. They have to load only the parent table. How are you going to implement that?
They are going to use the same method or
different? Yeah, same class, same method. Because 5 developers are there, right? They have to point to the same class and same method. You cannot change the class and the same method.
So like in the fetch is equals to we need to specify eager. So in the one-to-many relationship, right? We need to write fetch attribute, right? So fetch is equals to eager we can specify, right? So then it will load all the child dependencies also.
No, what do we mean because they are using the same attribute also, right? Because 5 developers they are using the same attribute. That cannot be changed. There is some other class, the class like the user defined class, that needs to be changed. 5 developers. But how are you going to implement on that? 5 developers. They have to load only the parent table.
So 1 second, my clarification is, so 5 developers are working on the same class, but 4 need to get the parent records and child records, but one employee should get only parent, but he should not get the child records. He should not show on the UI, right?
They have to load all the parent table, 5 last but they don't show UI, child table. They are not to load the child table. So what about the UI? Right, the main purpose is like they should not load on the child table. They have to load only the parent table. How are you going to implement on that?
No idea.
In Hibernate, you have a get and load, right?
Yes.
What is the difference between the get and the load?
So get is like it's a eager loading, like it will directly go to the database and it will print the select query and it will fetch the record from the database. Okay, if that id is exist, it will return the object, and if it is not there, it will give null. So like but whenever you call the load method, right, so if load with the primary key attribute if you are calling, so it will go to the session and it will search in the session. If the session doesn't contain any object, right, it will return the proxy object to the user. Okay, until and unless the user call non-primary attribute on the proxy object, it doesn't hit the database and it doesn't print the select query on the console or log file. So whenever we call a non-primary attribute, so it will go to the database and try to select the record from the database. So if the IDs does not exist, right, so it will throw object not found exception. If the session is closed and after closing the session you are calling the non-prime attribute, right, state exception kind of exception will be thrown. Or lazy initialization or state exception, I'm not sure.
You mentioned that the design pattern. What is the factory and abstract factory?
So like factory means it will provides a group of objects, like it will create group of objects, and whenever user calls a method, it will return each and every time a new object to the user. Like assume like session is a factory, so it will return each and every time one connection, right? So this session factory is also one more factory. It will return session object also for each, and whenever we call session factory dot get session, right, it will return always a new session factory, right? So like a factory is a it's a pool, it's a pool of objects, and it will return whenever the user calls by using the name of the item or anything. Like the abstract factory is a layer on top of a factory. Like
What is abstract factory?
yeah, it's a layer on top of factory. It's a factory about factories. Like so session factory provides like sessions and cache related information. Like assume we have mobiles and gadgets, right? So those will be provided from one factory, and the mobile also providing the either Nokia mobile or Samsung mobile. This will contain the Nokia mobile, and these are mobile coming from mobile factory, and mobile factory also coming from the another factory. That we call it as a abstract factory. So a layer on top of factory is called a abstract factory.
You work on Angular and Vision?
Angular 7 version.
Angular 7. Okay. You work in the Angular JS? Normal Angular JS?
No, I don't have experience on JS.